Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video down below and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
My name is Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. Hey guys, so in this video, Alvin and I will be giving you our bipartisan recap, our review of the 2025 speakership election. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're 3, 4 days into 2025, and we already have a significant election that took place. And this one is not by the people, but it is in the people's house. And in the House of Representatives, every Congress, on the third of each Congress, they start by electing a Speaker of the House, which they need to do before anything else. And in this one, it looked like it was going to be really interesting, and then it ended up not being too interesting. But after all that, Mike Johnson eventually became the Speaker of the House after only one ballot.
Yeah. I mean, I do think the vote is still notable enough, of course, for us to do a video on it here because just it didn't really seem at every point that Johnson had those votes together. I mean, there was a consensus that he'd get the votes eventually, but like there was some questions on how many rounds is it going to take? How like and how like and how many days of beyond that? Because obviously Trump's inauguration, certifying the election is all coming up. If the House of Representatives is not functioning, then it's hard to do a lot of that stuff. But yes, he did manage to clinch it on the first vote. I think they had to delay the first vote for like a couple hours, like an hour or two. But in the end, through haggling and negotiation, he eventually got there. And yeah,
Yeah,
you could. Oh yeah,
I'm
you
not
speak.
even sure if he negotiated. I mean, it looked like I mean, at the beginning of the day, he said that he would not be negotiating or doing any quid pro quos like the former speaker Kevin McCarthy. Um, and looking at the vote, I mean, this is the final vote, so it's really not exactly what happened. But as the day started, we had most members voting for their party's nominee. So Mike Johnson on the Republican side, and the Democrat side is a little more relevant, but they did vote in unity for Hakeem Jeffries, their leader, who's the minority leader yet again. But on the Republican side, you started seeing at the beginning a few members just not vote. Like Andy Biggs was the first one that we were looking at, and then there's a few more throughout the early part of Alphabet. Then we got to Tom Massey, who was really the person that people were looking at most to see who he would vote for. He didn't signal he would vote for any specific person, but he just said he's a no on Mike Johnson. He followed through with that. He did not break his promise, and he did vote for Tom Emmer, the House Whip.
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, well, the Republican whip, right? Before, yeah. But anyways, regardless, we moved on, and then we reached the ends. We had Norman in the ends. Let me find Ralph Norman here from South Carolina. He ended up also not voting for Mike Johnson. He voted for Jim Jordan, and then we moved on uh, down to Keith Self in the S is where he voted for Byron Donalds, which were
Hmm.
both people that we talked about in our last video on potential people that could become the speaker if it was not for Mike Johnson. And to me, it actually seemed like I mean, there was a bit of reporting on this, but to me, it seemed like there might have been a deal, not a deal, but a phone call actually that was brokered between President Trump, or I guess President and President-elect Trump now, with the two members and Mike Johnson in a private room where maybe President Trump just convinced them to vote to switch their votes from actually.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it is notable. I think that um, there's still some clear signs of opposition that Johnson has to contend with. If you go back to my map, I kind of like highlighted where those opposition um, representatives might be. Um, so there's six representatives that actually withheld their vote um, to to the end of the roll call for the speakership vote. Um, like when they were initially called, they just didn't vote for Johnson. Um, they made a point to stay silent and then waited to the end, to the very last minute to vote for him. These include representatives like Representative Cloud in Texas, other Republicans like Biggs and Gosar in Arizona. So yeah, that overall six Republicans were in that group, and then also the two you mentioned, Ralph Norman and Keith Self, who actually outright voted against Johnson in that first vote, and ended up flipping, like presumably because Trump had to get on the phone with them, um, like in the middle of the vote. So that delayed the vote for like an extra hour. But yeah, all that chaos, like in all, I believe there was like what maybe eight or nine representatives that showed any sort of opposition, nine representatives that showed any sort of opposition to Johnson. And conveniently, the motion to vacate, which is to get rid of the speaker, is now set at 9 votes. So, I mean, I imagine they're going to be watching him very closely throughout the this 119th Congress.
Yeah, and for our viewers that are not so familiar with the workings of the House, the motion to vacate is a motion that would basically oust the speaker and put the confidence of the speaker into question with a vote where the House is to vote whether or not to keep the current speaker or to vacate them, to oust them. And it's the motion that got
Hmm.
the last speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, to get booted and eventually kicked out. So, right now, I mean, 23% chance on this betting market Kalshi that Mike Johnson will get basically ousted or die or something happen to him before 2026. So in this year, and that's not nothing. I mean, that's not that much. I mean, before the before the day of voting happened, I mean, there was quite a few uncertainties on what would happen. So this was honestly pretty high. But now it seems like it's settled because not only is the motion to vacate now at 9 people, which is honestly a
Yes.
pretty high bar, but also because he seems to have scraped together, a good enough coalition. He also clearly has Trump's backing fully now. So that I think is also going to help him a lot. But I mean, speaking of the motion to vacate, do you want to talk about this letter here we have?
Oh yeah, like after the vote, a group of 11 Republicans in the House Freedom Caucus sent Johnson a letter, basically just um, telling him to stay in line for the Trump administration, pass the Trump agenda and don't snub individual members of the House. So basically, again, like it's just 11 members putting him on notice. Again, a notable amount because you only need 9 to get rid of him. So there's a lot of like there's definitely swirlings of opposition that Johnson's going to have to deal with. And I think that's particularly notable because he has a very slim majority to work with, and he has a lot of legislation he's responsible for passing. Like he's going to have to try to pass Trump's immigration legislation. He's going to have to try to pass Trump's tax cuts, like that's going to be a big part of Trump's next administration. Um, and all that, like he's going to have to work with a very slim majority. Um, and in the past, he's had to even rely on Democrats. Even like in the past Congress, he had an even larger majority and had to rely on Democrats to pass lots of budget bills and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how lots of these more conservative Republicans respond to that to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also like if you look at the demands that the House Freedom Caucus actually is demanding, it is not really like far right stuff. It's actually, if you actually read all the bullet points, some of them, I mean, I think you would even agree on this last point, and stock trading by members of Congress. That one's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like same, like yeah, like some of these are actually like very centrist slash like moderate things, or just generic things that most people voted for this election, like stopping the border crisis, etc. This healthcare freedom thing is honestly not even like far right, like freeing people from freeing companies from too many regulations on healthcare. But regardless, like we did talk about the 9 threshold. And with 11 people signing this letter, I think that's not a coincidence. You have more than nine, and that sort of signals to the speaker and leadership that they will band together to get rid of the speaker if necessary. And so that will sort of be that. And if
Mhm.
they joined the Democrats, then Mike Johnson would be out. So that's sort of what's going on here.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I wouldn't say the letter's not like there's some aspects of the letter that are of course quite radical, like reversing like the Inflation Reduction Act and electric vehicle subsidies, and a lot of that was passed under the Biden administration. I don't think that's particularly radical because, well, I think that is particularly radical because a lot of those subsidies and infrastructure projects are going to red districts. So that does kind of seem like you're shooting yourselves in the foot there. Um, but Yes, I mean the main takeaway, of course, is there's a lot of dissent in Johnson's house, and it's not really it's been kind of a trend over the last few years in the House of Representatives, of course, with Kevin McCarthy being ousted, and Johnson having threats to vacate his spot as Speaker. Oh, of course, having Democrats bail him out in his first attempt at being vacated by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be definitely be interesting to see how this Congress turns out. Yeah.
yeah, well, that is approximately all we have for this video here, recapping what's going on with the Speaker of the House election. But Mike Johnson's got a lot of work in front of him, as well as John Thune over in the Senate, who,
Hmm.
the Senate was also sworn in yesterday. So big things are happening in the 119th Congress, I believe it is, 119. So I guess we're going to be on the 120th Congress next time around,
Hmm.
in time for the 250th anniversary. And so, yeah, this is a big Congress. We're going to be looking at a lot of things that the Congress is doing over the next 2 years, I guess this Congress will last. So we'll be analyzing what's going on there, the electoral ramifications of all of it in the coming videos as well. So thank you very much for watching this video. Like this video down below if you enjoyed it. Comment down below any future video suggestions as we go into the new year. Subscribe to the channel down below as well so you don't miss our future videos and turn on the bell for notifications. And thanks for watching. Share this video with your family and friends.
See you guys.